let's make a start then. So I want to say a very warm welcome to everybody to our Rock Bank Winter Solstice Soul Circle. So the circle is humankind's earliest known symbol of integrity. And those who are familiar with the work of the now sadly departed Celtic mystic John O'Donoghue will know that he writes in his book Anam Cara that the circle offers a kindly and trusting hospitality to all who enter in. So I'm really hoping that that will be the case with our circle and for all of you and all of us this afternoon. Of course, the circle is reflected in so many of the world's most sacred traditions, isn't it? So I went through a few of them, thinking of the medicine wheel, the fool's journey through the tarot, the great astrological processions through the heavens, our own seasons, and of course our own turning lives. So we're very much looking forward to what will be shared this afternoon. And so we want to move toward lighting the solstice rock bank candle, which we thought appropriate to do given the subject of our meeting today. But before we do that, I wanted also to extend our warm greetings and welcome to those who may watch online if we get that far. So everybody who may join online is also very welcome as well. After that, all are invited to participate. And because I have an idea of what's coming up, I can tell you that there will be inspirational readings, there will be poems, there will be stories. Hazel will read from a beautiful account of one of Jung's dreams from his book, Memories, Dreams and Reflections. I will give a kind of introduction to the theme of holding light in the darkness. This will be followed by Ariane, who will read to us the story, The Three Golden Hairs, and tell us a little bit about the interpretation from Clarissa Pinkola Estes's book, classic now, isn't it? Which I'm sure that many of you will remember from quite some time ago now, Women Who Run with Wolves. And then after that, dear Gillian will read a passage from Luke, the birth of the divine child, Jesus. And I know that after that, John Carpenter has got something to offer, and after that, it's really open to all. And there will be hopefully plenty of room for people's comments and just free thoughts. So this is the rock bank candle, which I'm going to light as we open the meeting. And there is, to start off with, a short Celtic blessing. See, make enough space for the candle. But yeah, I just thought it'd be good just to settle down, maybe pause and take a bit of a deep breath and sort of settle into that deep, dark winter solstice darkness and hopefully restful space. The poem goes, may you find peace in the promise of the solstice light, that each day forward is blessed with more light, that the cycle of nature, unbroken and true, will bring faith to your soul and well-being to you. And with that, I'd like to pass the floor over to Hazel, but before she takes the floor, I'd just like to say, Hazel's going to read, as I said, from Memories, Dreams and Reflections. And when we met earlier in the week for a cup of tea, Hazel told me, I hope you don't mind me sharing this, Hazel. I should have asked really, but I haven't, but I'm just going to launch in anyway, that if she had to take one book to a desert island, this book would be it. So, I mean, I'm sure you're all familiar with the BBC long-running programme Desert Island Discs, where at the end there's a question, what book would you take? This would be Hazel's book, Memories, Dreams and Reflections. So over to you, dear Hazel.
Well, this was the book, if you can see it, that I had right back in the early days when I actually went to Bollingen and went and saw Jung's house there. And that really was a big adventure for me. It was an awful long time ago, but it happened. And the idea of reading a dream of Jung's from Memories, Dream Reflection is lovely. This is what he wrote. About this time, says Jung, I had a dream which both frightened and encouraged me. It was night in some unknown place, and I was making slow and painful headway against a mighty wind. Dense fog was flying along everywhere. I how I did that, but there. I had my hands cupped around a tiny light, which threatened to go out at any moment. Everything depended on my keeping this little light alight. Suddenly, I had the feeling that something was coming up behind me. I looked back and saw a gigantic black figure following me. But at the same moment, I was conscious, in spite of my terror, that I must keep my little light going through night and wind, regardless of all dangers. When I awoke, I realized at once that the figure was a spectre of the broken, my own shadow on the swirling mist, brought into being by the little light I was carrying. I knew, too, that this little light was my consciousness, the only light I have. My own understanding is the sole treasure I possess, and the greatest. Though infinitely small and fragile in comparison with the powers of darkness, it is still a light, my only light.
Thank you, dear Hazel. So I'm going to pick up from Jung's dream. A little bit further on in the book, he says, as far as we can discern, the sole purpose of human existence is to kindle a light in the darkness of mere being. Yet, when the darkness comes, it can really seem as if everything is lost. Everything that was familiar and comforting just seems to fall away. I know something of this cycle, of how it goes. And I've spent, as many of you have, I spent the best part of my life pondering it. For me personally, as it occurs in myth and fairy tale and in sacred text. The biblical fall, of course, comes to mind, our first expulsion from paradise, the fall of Atlantis, Persephone being snatched away into the underworld, Osiris at the height of his virility being brutally dismembered, and like the moon itself appears to be, as she loses her light from the full and wanes into darkness, 3 days of deep darkness. And also like Christ when he descends into the underworld, or hell, as it would be called in the Christian tradition. And then there's the Sumerian Inanna that our friend Eleanor Allet has illustrated so beautifully, taking her 7 famous steps down into the underworld, and at each step having to relinquish part of herself, part of her royal attire, which symbolizes everything that she is, her whole identity, everything. She's giving it up step by step as she goes down. First it's her crown, and then it's her scepter, and then it's her rich mantle, it's her sandals, until finally she arrives in the underworld completely and utterly naked and stripped bare of everything that she was before. And there she spends 3 nights on a meat hook. And personally, and I'm sure you've had similar experiences or dreams, I had a dream long ago in a very, very powerful and transformative period of my life, where I just walked out into the sea, and I knew I was leaving my husband and my children behind, and I just kept walking. And as I walked out deeper and deeper in, I started dissolving, and I went down back through the evolutionary scale. In fact, I became a fish with slimy scales, and then I became a grain of sand, and eventually I was nothing at all. I just dissolved into the water, and my old self was just nothing anymore. Yet the promise of the wild winter is this, says Clarissa Pinkola Estes in the book Women Who Run with the Wolves. After winter, spring always comes. The light does return, starting at this midwinter point, where the tomb of darkness in which the past has been dismembered is somehow miraculously, alchemically going to become a womb in which new life is seeded and which will eventually come to fruition. So this is nature's cycle, isn't it? And it's our cycle too. And it's a cycle that was known, understood, and celebrated for thousands and thousands of years by our ancient ancestors. And at this winter solstice moment, the sun's rays penetrate the innermost depths, the holy of holies, of structures like, for example, Luxor Temple in Egypt. I should imagine several of you might have visited. I have. Stonehenge in Somerset, and New Grange in Ireland, to mention just a tiny few. There are lots and lots of these structures on our planet. The Celtic name for New Grange is actually Sir Brew, literally meaning womb of the goddess. And at that moment, the sun's rays come deep into the temple and into the womb of the temple. So it really is a reenactment of what we would have known and what the ancients would have known as the sacred marriage, the coming together of opposites at that time from which new life is born. And those who have witnessed these things, this light penetrating these ancient structures at this moment at the winter solstice, just really draw back in awe and in wonder at the absolute and sheer precision. I mean, how could it have been done? And yet it was done. So we have remnants of those traditions coming down to us in the West, in our stories of the Annunciation, where artists have depicted. We looked at the Annunciation, I think, around about this time last year, didn't we? And we looked at lots of paintings from the Renaissance which show streams of light streaming into the Virgin at the moment of the conception. So when viewed in this way, through these mythic lenses, I suppose, we can see that both the birth of the Egyptian god Horus, who's the child, the offspring of Isis and Osiris, and also the birth of Jesus, are on one level symbolic of the rebirth of that divine light, that divine child, the potential of that divine child being born within ourselves, within our own consciousness. Because what happens to Horus afterwards is he's the one that then comes and he restores peace and harmony to the broken world into which he's born. And in Anna, she climbs to the surface, up those 7 steps, and each time she reclaims part of her attire, as if she's almost, reflecting, collecting slices of the waxing moon as it comes back to its fullness. And Jesus too, following his own descent into hell, comes back and his own crucifixion and death, comes back luminous. It's a transformation. He comes back transformed with the spring equinox. It's the time when many of these intrepid travellers, or even those who have been stolen away, make their return. And in my own dream, on a much lesser level, of course, in my own dream too, there was quite a beautiful ending. For after dissolving utterly and losing all form, I went back up through that evolutionary scale just in one night, in bed, as it were. And I became again a grain of sand, and then a fish with the slimy scales, and then I got a human form, and then I pushed myself back up to the surface, and there, coming toward me, was the moon, the crescent moon, but it was upturned and it was a boat. And in this moon boat was this very, very ancient Inuit woman with long plaits, and she was very weathered and wise. And she just came along in the water and she just scooped me up and plonked me in the boat and took me back, and I woke up in bed. And the reason I can tell you all that is because the next morning I was so astounded, and I just got a pen straight away and wrote it down. You know how easy it is to lose these things. But circling back, to the Greek mythology as well, when Persephone comes back, she doesn't come back as the maiden who went down. She comes back as the woman. She comes back wizened. She comes back. She's lost her innocence, of course. She's lost her innocence for sure. But now she's queen of the underworld. She's mature and she's fertile. She's absolutely fertile. And she brings the spring, and she brings the great flourishing to the dark and the barren land. And the hope is, I'm coming to the end of my part now, and the hope is that we too will also emerge from whatever it is that has in the past, or may yet still plunge us into darkness, into our own painful and yet ultimately healing vessel of transformation. There's beauty in the darkness too. As Hazel has told us many times at Rock Bank, there's beauty in the darkness too. There's beauty also in relinquishing. There's beauty in slowing down. There's beauty in letting go. There's beauty in surrender. For then, when we do this, which we often don't want to do, but when we do stop and when we do pause and when we do those things, then there can come stillness, and then there can come peace, and then there can come rest and deeply restorative sleep, in which all that is new is gestated. So I thank you for that. And I'd like to pass on, because I know what I have shared there is going to link rather beautifully into what Ariane is now going to share from Clarissa Pinkola Estes.
Thank you, Caroline. That was beautiful. So I'm going to read the story of the 3 gold hairs. And after that, I wanted to read her explanation of the story. And I hope you'll agree, because it's quite an amazingly mystifying story it was to me at first, until I read the explanation and I thought, yes, of course. But here it goes. Once, when it was deepest, darkest night, the kind of night when the land is black and the trees look like gnarled hands and the sky is dark midnight blue, an old man staggered through the forest, half blinded by the limbs of trees. The boughs scratched his face, and he held out a tiny lantern in one hand. The candle inside the lantern was burning lower and lower. The man had long yellow hair, cracked yellow teeth, and curved yellow fingernails. He was hunched over, and his back was rounded like a bag of flour. He was so furrowed, his skin hung in furbelows from his chin and armpits and from his hips. He held onto a tree and pulled himself forward, and then grasped another tree and pulled himself forward. And with this rowing motion and his hard breathing, he made his way through the forest. Every bone in his feet pained like fire. The owls in the trees screeched right along with his joints as he propelled himself forward in the dark. Way off in the distance, there was a tiny flickering light, a cottage, a fire, a home, a place of rest, and he labored towards that little light. Just as he reached the door, he was so tired, so exhausted, the tiny light in his lantern died, and the old man fell through the door and collapsed. Inside was an old woman, sitting before a beautiful roaring fire, and now she hurried to his side, gathered him into her arms, and carried him to the fire. She held him in her arms as a mother holds her child. She sat and rocked him in her rocking chair. There they were, the poor frail old man, just a sack of bones, and the strong old woman rocking him back and forth, saying, "There, there, 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 there." And she rocked him all through the night, and by the time it was not yet morning, but almost, he had grown much younger. He was now a beautiful young man with golden hair and long, strong limbs. And still she rocked him, "There, there, there, there." And as morning approached even more closely, the young man had turned into a very small and very beautiful child with golden hair plaited like wheat. Just at the moment of dawn, the old woman plucked 3 hairs very quickly from the child's beautiful head and threw them to the tiles. They sounded like this: ding, ding, ding. And the little child in her arms crawled down from her lap and ran to the door. Looking back at the old woman for a moment, he gave her a dazzling smile, then turned and flew up into the sky to become the brilliant morning sun. So I'm just going to read Clarissa's explanation of this. And John, I must say that this is geared mainly towards women. However, and it's about the tired animus, and I'm sure you can translate that as a tired anima for a man, really. But she wrote this book mainly geared towards women. But
I'll do my best.
it's not an exclusive theme for women
No,
at all.
I'll do my. I realise I'm the only bloke here, but
Yeah, but I thought I should
surrounded
say
by
it.
the wolf. I'm surrounded by the wolf pack, aren't I? Having read
Yeah,
that.
you are.
Maybe I should run for the door.
Yeah. Right. So Clarissa says, things are different at night. So to understand this story, we must descend to a night consciousness, a state in which we are more quickly aware of every creak and snap. Night is when we are closer to ourselves, closer to essential ideas and feelings that do not register so much during the day. Night is the world of Mother Nyx, the woman who made the world. She is the old mother of days, one of the life and death crones. When it is night in a fairy tale, we know we are in the unconscious. St. John of the Cross called it the dark night of the soul. In this tale, it is a time when energy in the form of an old man becomes weaker and weaker. It is a time when we are on our last foot in some important way. To lose focus means to lose energy. The absolutely wrong thing to attempt when we've lost focus is to rush about, struggling to pack it all back together again. Rushing is not the thing to do. As we see in the tale, sitting and rocking is the thing to do. Patience, peace, and rocking renew ideas. Just holding the idea and the patience to rock it are what some women might call a luxury, while woman says it is a necessity. This is something the wolves know all about. When an intruder appears, wolves may growl, bark, or even bite the interloper, but also they may from a good distance draw back into their group and sit together as a family would. They just sort of sit there and breathe together. Rib cages go in and out, up and down. They're focusing themselves, regrounding themselves, returning to the center of themselves and deciding what is critical, what to do next. Now, many times when ideas aren't operating smoothly or we aren't working them well, we lose our focus. It is part of a natural cycle, and it occurs because the idea has gotten stale or we have lost our ability to see it in a fresh way. We have ourselves grown old and creaky like the old man in the 3 gold hairs. Although there are many theories and creative blocks, the truth is that mild ones come and go like weather patterns and like seasons, with the exceptions of psychological blocks, such as not getting down to one's truth, fear of being rejected, being afraid to say what one knows, worrying about one's adequacy, and so on. This story is so excellent because it delineates the entire cycle of an idea, the little tiny light accorded it, which of course is the idea itself, and that it becomes fatigued and is near extinguished, all as part of its natural cycle. In fairy tales, when something bad happens, it means that something new has to be tried, a new energy has to be introduced, a helper, healer, magic force has to be consulted. Here again, we see old Lakesabe, the 2 million-year-old woman. She is the one who knows. To be held before her fire is restorative, reparative. It is to this fire and to her arms that the old man drags himself, for without these he dies. The old man is tired out from a long time at the work we give to him. Have you ever seen a woman work like the devil had hold of her big toe, only to suddenly collapse and go no further? Have you ever seen a woman hell's a popping about some social issue, only to one day turn her back and say, to hell with it? Her animus has worn out. He is in need of being rocked by Lakesabe, the woman whose idea or energy has waned, withered, or seized altogether, needs to know the way to this old woman healer and must carry the tired animus there for renewal. But in the end, a woman must rest now, rock now, regain her focus. She must become younger, recover her energy. She thinks she cannot, but she can, for the circle of women, be they mothers, students, artists, or activists, always closes to fill in for those who go on rest leave. A creative woman has to rest now and return to her intense work later. She has to go see the old woman in the forest, the revivifier, the wild woman in one of her many leitmotifs. Wild woman expects that the animus will wear out on a regular basis. She is not shocked that he falls through the door. She is not shocked when we fall through the door. She is ready. She will not rush to us in a panic. She will just pick us up and hold us till we regain our power again. And neither should we panic when we lose our momentum or focus. But like her, we must calmly hold the idea and be with it for a while. Whether our focus is on self-development, world issues, or relationship doesn't matter. The animus will wear down. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. Completing long endeavors such as finishing school, concluding a manuscript, fulfilling one's opus, caregiving an ill person, all these have their times when the once young energy turns old, falls down, and can go on no longer. For women, it is best if they understand this at the onset of an endeavor. For women tend to be surprised by fatigue. Then they wail, they mutter, they whisper about failure, inadequacy, and such. No, no. This losing of energy is as it is. It is nature. The assumption of eternal strength in the masculine is an error. It is a cultural introject that must be routed from the psyche. The misconception causes both the masculine energies in the inner landscape and the males in a culture to disappoint. All just naturally need a break to restore their strength. The modus operandi of the life-death-life-nature cycle is cyclical and applies to everyone and all things. In the story, 3 hairs are thrown to the floor. There is a saying, throw some gold on the floor. The hair is symbolic of thought, that which issues from the head. To throw some away or down makes the boy's child be somehow lighter, activates him to shine even more brightly. Likewise, your worn-out idea or endeavor can shine more brightly if you will take some of it and throw it away. It is the same idea as a sculptor removing more marble in order to reveal more of the hidden form. A powerful way of renewing or strengthening one's intention or action that has become fatigued is to throw some idea away and focus. Take 3 hairs out of your endeavor and throw them to the ground. There they become like a wake-up call. Throwing them down makes a psychic noise, a chime, a resonance in the woman's spirit that causes activity to occur again. The sound of some of one's many ideas falling away becomes like an announcement of a new era or a new opportunity. For the wildish woman, the animus' cycle of increase and decrease is natural. It is an archaic process, an ancient process. Time out of mind is how women approach the world of ideas and the outer manifestation of them. This is how women do it. The old woman in the fairy tale 3 gold hairs teaches us, reteaches us really, how it is done. So what is the point of this reclamation and focus, this calling back of the hawk, this running with the wolves? It is to go for the jugular, to get right down to the seed and to the bones of everything and anything in your life. Because that's where your pleasure is, that's where your joy is, that's where a woman's Eden lies, that place where there is time and freedom to be, wander, write, sing, create, and not be afraid. When wolves perceive pleasure or danger, they at first become utterly still. They become like statues, utterly focused so they can see, so they can hear, so they can sense what is there. Sense what is there in its most elemental form. This is what Wild Woman offers us, the ability to see what is before us through focusing, through stopping and looking and smelling and listening and feeling and tasting. Focusing is the use of all of our senses, including intuition. It is from this world that women come to claim their own voices, their own values, their imaginations, their clairvoyance, their stories, and the ancient memories of women. And these are the work of focus and creation. If you've lost focus, just sit down and be still. Take the idea and rock it to and fro. Keep some of it and throw some away, and it will renew itself. You need do no more. Thank you, Caroline, for asking me to read this story, because I have just been through, I've come out of it now, but I've just really been through a period of the old man falling through the door, and I completely resonated with the story, and just simply reading it has been very healing and strengthened my acceptance of that period. So thank you.
Thank you, Ariane. Thank you. I'm so pleased that you read out the interpretation as well. I know the stories speak for themselves, don't they? But it is nice to have someone say, "Hang on a minute, this is really," especially the bit about the 3 hairs. That's absolutely marvelous. I don't know what others feel. Take some and throw some away. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I know I'm the animus here, but that really resonated with me. And I like that. Take some and throw some away. That was great.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really good. I read that book in Italian years ago. I can't remember a single word of it.
Yeah. I mean, it is a long time ago, and yet it's still really powerful. You know, you reading it out today, I still feel that she's a really brilliant writer with such great insights. Because, of course, she is a storyteller, a cantadora, isn't she? She comes from the South American tradition, but she's also a Jungian analyst as well. So she's got that beautiful combination. Yeah. So, Cheryl, you've raised your hand.
Yeah, I've never heard that story before. Is it a traditional story?
I'm not sure. It must be a.
She
It's
says
not
that
particularly one that's in our culture, is it? She doesn't. Does
No.
she actually?
she says at the start there, before the story, that she had it from I think an Eastern European relative.
Romanian.
Romanian, yeah, that
Yeah.
passed it to her. I mean, a lot of her tales did come down that route from people who'd emigrated to the United States and brought all this Eastern European folklore with them, and she received a lot of stories that way, that she's then taken and ruminated upon and made her own, and then passed them to us.
Yes, very, very interesting. And that idea of throwing something away from your ideas, your beliefs. I find that quite powerful. Thank you.
Shall we move on to Gillian? Are you ready to do your reading, and then we can chat again?
It's the King James Version, Luke 2. And it came to pass in those days that there went out a decree from Caesar Augustus that all the world should be taxed. And all went to be taxed, everyone into his own city. And Joseph also went up from Galilee, out of the city of Nazareth into Judea, unto the city of David, which is called Bethlehem, to be taxed with Mary, his espoused wife, being great with child. And so it was that while they were there, the days were accomplished that she should be delivered. And she brought forth her firstborn son, and wrapped him in swaddling clothes, and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn. And there were in the same country shepherds abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them, and they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Saviour, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. You shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts, praising God and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and peace on earth, goodwill towards men. And it came to pass, as the angels were gone away from them into heaven, the shepherds said to one another, Let us go even unto Bethlehem, and see this thing which has come to pass, which the Lord hath made known to us. And they came with haste, and found Mary and Joseph and the babe lying in a manger. And when they had seen it, they made known abroad the saying which was told them concerning this child. And all that they had heard, and all they that heard it wondered at those things which were told them by the shepherds. But Mary kept all these things and pondered them in her heart.
Thank you so much, Gillian. Because in the Christian tradition, it's Advent at the moment, isn't it? And it's this gradual waiting for the light, the lighting another candle each week as Advent progresses. Maria, hello. Are you just returning to us?
No, I've been listening, but lying in a more comfortable position.
Okay, okay.
Yes, but also I've sort of appeared. I'm aware that you said John has something to share, but I also actually want to share something which is a bit on the Christian side. That's why I've appeared. So
Oh, I see. Carry on, carry on.
Okay, so well, it's I did say my books are all in boxes, but this one wasn't. So this is Steiner's book, and it's the Four Seasons and the Archangels, and it does talk about each angel holding a season. So Archangel Gabriel is the one that takes us through winter. And there was just this little bit that I thought might be nice to read with the Christmas time. And he says, so out of all that we can feel at Christmas time, there arises the picture of Mary the Mother, the folds of her robe following the forces of the earth, while in the region of the chest, even these details are apparent in a painting, her garment has to be inwardly rounded, taking on the quicksilver form, so that here one has a feeling of inward enclosure. Here, the sun forces can find entry, and the innocent Jesus child, who must be thought of as having not yet received any earthly nourishment, is the sun activity resting on Mary's arm, with the radiance of the stars above. This is how we have to represent the head and the eyes of Mary, as though a light were shining out from within them towards humanity. And the Jesus child in Mary's arms must appear as though emerging from the rounded cloud shapes, tender and lovable, inwardly sheltered, and then the garment subject to earthly gravity, expressing that the force of earthly gravity can become. And it's just a little piece that I found maybe beautiful, represents that time of Christmas through Christianity, the birth of light, the birth of Christ, but also the relation of the mother, the nurturing earth. I absolutely love in the painting's health, and the garment is stroking the earth, and it does show, like in Greek, Panagia, yeah, is earth, and ban is whole, and it really represents that holding of everything. And as I was listening to everyone and lying down, I also thought of the biodynamic agriculture process where winter is such an inward nurturing time, where outwardly the land looks abandoned and dead, but it's because all the nurturing and the light of the cosmic forces are actually inward, and the light is being nurtured, the sea is being nurtured under the sea, under earth, and it's at Candlemas on the 2nd of February where the crack becomes and the light starts coming out. And I find this a very beautiful process, and I really related to Ariane, what you read, and I'm also going through that, having moved and everything through that dark time, which I embrace, and it's also very challenging and also rewarding, being able to patiently hold, just allow things to fall apart and just not grasp the next thing and allow things to be nurtured somehow. Thank you.
John, would you like to share your offering?
Okay. That was really good about the land. That was being nurturing itself and being full of seeds. And I'm going to just see if you can hear this. Can everybody hear this? Well, that was Bulgarian. It's got nothing to do with what's going to happen next, but it's beautiful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read you something I wrote for this occasion. I'm going to have to go over here. So I'm going to have to read this from over here because it won't come on the other screen. So this is a little verse that I think is appropriate. After the verse is finished, I'm going to play you a song which I'm going to sing along with, because I was sing it live, but getting the guitar to balance with the microphone. So I'm going to mute you all for that song, but the song, you probably know it. Please sing along, but stay muted, because Not because you haven't got better voices than me, I'm sure you all have, but because if two people start singing, Zoom gets confused. That's the only reason. But please sing along when the time comes. So here is my little verse. Yeah, I suggest everybody goes into gallery view so we can all see each other for the song. Because during the song, I'd like everybody to wish each other well for the festive season. It's a season of good wishes. So we can all look at each other. Take a little time to look at everybody on the screen if you use gallery view, and then wish everybody well. That's a lovely thing to do. We do that often on the ICU. So you just take your time, put your hand on your heart. That's what I do. Look at the people and wish them well. That's the message of the season of goodwill, and it's a good thing to remember here as we approach the solstice. So they told him winter wouldn't last, that these long dark nights would pass. They said the spring will soon be here, the days will lengthen, never fear. But John just sat expressionless, staring at a wilderness of barren trees and sunless skies, thinking they're all telling lies. The winteriness is here to stay because it's been freezing cold for days. There's not a flower in the park, and next door's dog's too cold to bark. So they consulted his GP, who said, John's lost his memory, the long term, not the short term kind, and this has made him future blind. He can't think back more than a week. His brain box needs a little tweak. But this is no job for a medic. We need to summon Mr. Vedic. They say he's hundreds of years old, but he doesn't suffer from the cold. His teeth shine bright. They have no plaque. His hearing sharper than a tack. It seems that was indeed the case. Out of the blue appeared a face, as wrinkled as a sun-dried prune, as smiley as man in the moon. Vedic shook his ancient head, declaring John would soon be dead. Unless the winter rose were found, he'd soon be in the cold, cold ground. They asked, where does this flower grow? Vedic laughed, why, don't you know? It's blooming now within the heart, and has been since the winter's start. But how to bring it out, they asked. Vedic grinned, a simple task. There is the smallest of demands. Just touch your heart space with your hands. Aligning with what Vedic said, they saw that John raised up his head. Aha, he cried, now I remember the autumn leaves of last September. Before that, all the trees were green and there were glorious summer scenes. And before that, in early May, the bluebells on the woodland way announced the ending of last spring. And John decided he would sing a song to touch the listening heart, to make one glad to be a part of something greater than by far even your own brightest star. Communion of souls, you see, reveals that within you and me resides a grand collectivus, the Rock Band Fellowship. That's us. So sing along if you want to. You know this song. Some say love, it is a river that drowns the tender reed. Some say love, it is a razor that leads your soul to bleed. Some say love, it is a hunger, an endless aching need. I say love, it is a flower, and you it's so seed. heart afraid
of breaking, that never learns to dance.
and the
It's the
dream
dream,
afraid
afraid of waking, that never takes
the
the
chance.
chance.
It's
It's the
one
one
who won't
who
be
won't be
taken,
taken, who cannot seem to give.
the
And
soul
so
afraid
afraid of dying,
and
will
never
never learn
to
to
live.
live. When the night
Has been
had
too
been too
lonely,
lonely,
and
and the
oh,
road
it's been
has been
too long.
too long,
When
and you
you
think
feel that
that love is
only
only
for the
for the
lucky
lucky
and
and
the
the
strong.
strong.
Just
Just
remember
remember in the winter,
our
far
beneath
beneath
the
the
bitter
bitter
snow.
snows, lies the sea
That
that with the
sun's
sun's warmth in
spring
the spring
becomes
becomes the rose,
the
lies the
sea
seed
that with
that with the sun's love
in the
in
spring
the spring becomes the rose.
now. We're just gonna just for a minute. It's lovely. Oh, I'm gonna keep my hand on my heart and wish everybody well for the upcoming solstice. It is. Thank you.
Thank you, dear John. I mean, these open circles are rather wonderful, aren't they? There's no way to predict what might happen. There's no way to call it in advance. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, John. That was beautiful. I'm afraid I don't know the song, and who is it?
Oh well, it's a song from a film called The Rose. I think Betty Midler made it famous. It's about Janis Joplin. It's about the life of Janis Joplin,
Right.
the film. So that song was really about her life. She had a tough life. She was an amazing singer.
And what was that last piece of music, John?
That piece of music is called Om. It's by I don't know who it's by, but we use it sometimes for gazing. We do gazing circles at the ICU, and that's a piece of music that Tim Freak prepared. Sometimes we gaze for a minute on Zoom at each other, and that's one of the pieces of music. It's just called Om. I don't know who's by, but I can find out from Tim.
Oh, yeah, I'd appreciate that. It's lovely.
Okay, well, yeah.
It was brilliant.
Welcome. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed preparing it. It's lovely to share that with people. I thought the song was appropriate for the solstice. I know we're way ahead of the solstice. It's the 21st, isn't it? Solstice.
Yeah.
So I always look forward to that. Because then I tell myself every day is getting a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Really lovely song. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song, Hazel. Yeah.
Mm.
Song of hope, I think, in the time of darkness, isn't it?
Yeah. It's how the spring comes every time and brings the rose back to life, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, with your garden, especially, Hazel.
Could I add something, Caroline?
Oh, yes.
What I was thinking was the reference in Gillian's reading about angels. And I was thinking of Corbin and Tom Cheetham, who wrote this wonderful book from Corbin about how each one of us has our own angel out ahead, if you like. And it's just such a lovely thing that he wrote about them. And I wondered, could I read a little bit of what he wrote? We're creatures of light. Every creature of light has an angel, a being who is our double and our eternal twin, and to whom we're battling to return. We long to find and unite with them and help them to combat the forces of evil. The earthly soul, that's us, meets our own individual angel on the road, the archetypal creature of light who's chosen to come and be alongside each one of us. Our angel is identified with our soul, but is also archetypal. A celestial person remains, without whom the earthly soul is incomplete. Our own soul is the angel's destiny. The angel is given us to look after, and us only to look after. And the angel's with us all the way and comes to meet us at the bridge when we die to this world of humanity. Until our earthly soul meets our angel on the bridge, we lack our eternal half. We're lagging behind ourselves, incomplete and confined, in nostalgia and anticipation, in exiled incompleteness, in longing and hope. We anticipate a reunion that will release slow time into its paradisial state and culminate in a union with the figure of light who is our eternity. But every angel, every one of our angels has their own angel too. They have an archangel, if you like, of their own behind them or out ahead of them. It's not only the incarnate soul who's met by its angel on the bridge, so are the archangels. These are angels who go out ahead, opening up new distances within eternity itself. There are no fixed beings. Every being of light always has another angel out ahead of itself. Even God, the supreme being, has an angel out ahead, a figure who leads him into endless transcendences beyond imagining. And that comes from ancient Persian thought via Sohravardi and Corbin and Tom Cheetham. So thank you.
That's absolutely wonderful, Hazel. I love that.
Oh,
And
Sort
Hazel, sorry, carry on.
just the sort of our road being swept and being opened and
yeah,
being carried by an angel. How marvelous.
yeah. And that our angel has her own angel. I love that.
Yes, nobody's alone.
Nobody alone. None of us ever. No.
That reminds me of there's a passage somewhere, I don't know where it's from, of someone who's struggling through the desert on their last legs, and they realize that they somehow get through, and they realize that they've been carried through by someone, and they just see the footprints. I can't remember where that's from. It's a lovely image.
Yes.
It's the footprints, isn't it? There's only one set of footprints. It must
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that reminded me of that passage. Lovely. Persian.
yeah.
A place that no longer exists.
Yeah, you're right.
Crazy.
This wonderful book, All the World an Icon,
Yeah.
by Tom Cheetham.
And Hazel, am I right in thinking that you chose that phrase for the title of your alchemy book?
Yes,
Yeah.
because I wrote that book with such a sense of the angel ahead of me, ahead of us,
Yeah.
going through those pictures. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Splendor Soulless. We went through that book in the garden. We had a glorious time, me and Joel, doing that book.
So I'm about to change the subject completely here, but it's something about light and dark, and but I don't know how you all fared in the storm yesterday and overnight. But we were without electricity for quite a long time, and I was here just with my daughter and my granddaughter, and I think the whole day was spent just tending the fire and the candles, and we couldn't get out because a tree had come down in the road, and this is not without thinking of people that were struggling. You know, was my experience of this, but how lovely it was to actually have some space out of time where we couldn't rush around, and it was really a reflective time. Actually, it was so lovely and slow and nurturing, and you know that everything. There were the shadows on the walls from the candles, and which were quite magical sometimes. It was like you could see pictures, and it was just a very special moment out of time. In the midst of this, really, the storm was dreadful. But I thought of, sort of times gone past when, you know, television wasn't a thing, and it was just sitting in that dark place, which wasn't dark at all. It was full of light, actually, and I could actually read by candlelight. I managed to sit and read, which I would never do in a day. I wouldn't have time to do. Well, that's a slight exaggeration. I sometimes do, but I was thinking of the dark and the light, and how there was so much light in that darkness, and how much I enjoyed just taking a pause, which seems a part of everything that's being said today. Sort of how taking a pause and being reflective. I don't know how it would feel after a week of it, but certainly for a day and a half, it was lovely.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I'm not sure we're progressing at all, really. Sometimes it just felt wonderful. So even though that's got nothing to do with anything we're talking about, it sort of seemed relevant.
Oh, well, I think it has got, I think it has got something to do and links in beautifully with everything that people have said, Jenny. I really do. And a couple of years ago, I started the tradition of lighting candles all through the day in the winter, in the dark time. And I just, apparently the Scandinavians do that. Yeah, and I just love it. So I get up in the morning and I just light a candle and put the kettle on, you know, and it really creates a different world, candlelight, doesn't it?
It's magical, absolutely magical, actually.
Mm.
Yeah, and
And
seeing it through my granddaughter's eyes was beautiful because she was kind of really aware of the whole thing being different. So, sorry, John, you were going to say
Oh, I was
something.
just going to say, you can see a candle. You can see a tiny candle. If it's darkness everywhere, you can see a candle miles away, can't you?
Mm.
Just I came to the conclusion that when I saw a candle miles away one time, that you can't see darkness. The only thing you can see is light. You can't actually see darkness.
Mm.
All you see in the darkness are the lights. So it sounds like you had a wonderful time. I mean, we went to Wales last year just to do that.
Yeah.
Did you?
What you were forced to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic.
I think also that there's a kind of yearning within us to bring that light into the darkness, and I think we see that with people putting out their Christmas lights, don't we? There's
Yeah.
you know, there's just that feeling that we want to light up the darkness in some way, and yes, some are more extravagant than others, and some are just very simple, but it's all just that light in the darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, when we went to Wales, we had a log burner. We dream of a log burner because, again, just you know, turning all the lights off and having the flickering flame.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful to be in that cottage in Wales, and there was, well, there might have been a telly there. We weren't aware of it. It was just never
I think
on.
there was. We just never turned it on.
No, I don't. I can't even remember where it was. It was just wonderful just to be with the fire and the light that gave us.
Mm.
Yeah.
So very, yeah, really resonate with that, Jenny.
Yeah, it is. It's just so peaceful. It's
Yeah,
lovely.
yeah.
It just made me realize what a fast world, even though I haven't, got loads to, well, I have loads to do, but it's of my own creation quite often. And, just not being forced to stop is just so lovely sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Wendy, you would like to say something?
To what we have been talking about. Is that right?
Very quiet, Wendy.
Oh, okay.
Maybe volume up or something.
Shall I put? I've got a poem to share. Shall I put my microphones on and then?
Yes. Oh, please do.
Then I'll
Please.
have to come back. Yeah, I mean I'll do that now, but yeah, carry on. I've just got a poem to share. That's all.
That will be lovely, Wendy, and
Absolutely,
tell us
yeah.
when you're ready.
Okay, I will.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've just had in my collection of poems one by Rumi, which is called Search the Darkness. It's very short. Sit with your friends. Don't go back to sleep. Don't sink like a fish to the bottom of the sea. Surge like an ocean. Don't scatter yourself like a storm. Life's waters flow from darkness. Search the darkness. Don't run from it. Night travelers are full of light, and you are too. Don't leave this companionship. Be a wakeful candle in a golden dish. Don't slip in the dirt like quicksilver. The moon appears for night travelers. Be watchful when the moon is full.
Oh. Oh, how lovely. How lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Thank you. Susan, can you unmute yourself?
Turned my computer on, ready for our meeting, but there was something catching my eye outside, and it was I'm on a second floor flat, and I have the privilege of being able to look out towards Wells Cathedral. And it's very cloudy, but the sun was setting, and the light was twinkling, bouncing off. I don't know what they're called, but you can imagine the small metal triangular flags, I suppose, at the top of a spire in the corners. And it was like this pink semaphore. It was really, and it came and went as the sun came, and it was lovely. So I thought I'd mention that.
No.
I mean, what's coming through to me is not to fear things falling apart. There's always renewal, the possibility of renewal. And that's very helpful at the moment with the world as it is. And perhaps the world has always been this way, but don't fear the darkness and the breaking, because new things will come. So it's a poem by Minnie Haskins that you will know. And I thought this was kind of relevant. I said to the man who stood at the gate of the year, "Give me a light that I may tread safely into the unknown." And he replied, "Go out into the darkness and put your hand into the hand of God. That shall be to you better than light and safer than a known way." So I went forth, and finding the hand of God, trod gladly into the night, and he led me towards the hills and the breaking of day in the lone east.
How lovely. How lovely.
You don't often hear that last verse, do you? But I think it's very relevant, being led out.
That was lovely. I can see the purple. I can see the purple lights reflected in your glasses. So.
Yes. You had that wonderful light installation at the cathedral last year, didn't you, Susan, which was quite stunning. You sent us a video of it.
Peace doves, yes.
Yeah. Peace doves.
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder where they've gone now, to another cathedral somewhere, but...
Well, no, what's good about it is that it's fresh for every cathedral, because of the shape is different. And the artist asks for prayers or just good wishes or positive words in each location to be written on these doves, and then they're hung together according to the shape of the cathedral. So yes, it's quite an undertaking, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Yeah. But powerful. Yeah. What were they made of, the doves? Were they made of paper?
Just paper. Yeah. Yes. It's a paper template.
Yeah.
Yes. Very simple. The simple things are often the best, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know after I'd seen your Wells Cathedral display, I went to a local church here where they got the air, as it were, in the church, full of angels, little angels that all the children had made, those rounded ones with their wings wrapped round the back. And that was just lovely too, seeing that and comparing with Wells Cathedral and thinking how lovely they both are.
Yes, yes. And the Christmas tree festivals that now routinely appear in certain churches, they're very sweet as well.
Is that a fairly new thing? Because I first came across it only a few years ago, and they seem to have the Christmas trees um, uh, through the church where I ring the bells. I don't think they're there every year, but every couple of years or so, and they're all decorated, and then we can decorate one for the belfry as well, which we hang lots of bells on,
Yeah.
and lights. And yeah, I don't know whether that's an old tradition or something that's come in and that's quite new.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Cheryl, but I know that
No.
in the Dante Alighieri Society, we've been doing, well, I'm not on that committee anymore, but we used to, and they still do one for the church every year and just do
Yeah.
little Italian things on it, you know.
Yeah.
But it is sweet because nurseries and all sorts of groups contribute, don't they? And it just lights up the churches so beautifully.
Mhm.
But I
Yeah.
can't let pass the fact that you've just told us that you do bell ringing.
Ah, yes. Yeah. Well, yeah, yes, I was kind of invited along as a child. I was 11 and I'd moved to a village, and she was one of the ringing mistresses, and my dad had rung bells when he was a child and went to school in that village. And so we'd moved back to that village when I was, yeah, I think I was 11, 12. And she immediately said, "Oh, come along," to me and my brother. And my brother lasted a week, and yeah, I'm still going. I had a bit of a break when I had the children, but I'm back ringing, and I ring at two local churches. Um,
Oh.
yeah. We're struggling a bit for bell ringers at the minute, so it's Sundays don't seem to happen at the moment, and I do love to ring the bells on Sundays. But yeah, we've got our Christmas ring tomorrow night, and Christmas meal, so that will be fun. Yeah.
How lovely, Cheryl,
Mm.
how lovely. I mean, what's special about the Christmas ring?
Ah, well, we go off to a different tower. So we try to find a tower that we've never rung at before. And we all wear Christmas jumpers or dresses and antlers and what have you. And and just have a ring somewhere different. And it's really intriguing. I mean, belfries are all so different. Some are in the church, some are up their own tower. Some ring a different way round. Some we ring clockwise, mainly they're a clockwise ring, but you can find some towers that are anti-clockwise, and of course different numbers of bells, different weights, a different tone, a different feel. Yeah, so it's quite intriguing to have a little ring somewhere else, and then celebrate Christmas. And of course, I've spent many years walking through dark churchyards and graveyards, because often, in the winter, you're on your own arriving at the church to get to the bell tower. And so I'm quite used to walking through dark, dark graveyards and churchyards. And it's never bothered me, to be honest. And yes, there's always the light shining in the porch, so head for the light. And the beautiful thing is on the dark winter nights, when you come out, and it doesn't happen so often. Well, certainly hasn't this year, but you come out, and there is this beautiful this dark sky full of stars, and the clarity. On one of those nights, it's really special to actually be outside at that time and look at the stars. So I appreciate that bit of it as well. Yeah.
And you're going to Elford Hall, aren't you, this time?
Oh,
Elford Hall Garden,
yes.
which is just on the subject of community, I guess, because it's come up a few times. Elford Hall Gardens is a community garden, an amazing place in a tiny little village, and the community own the garden. So they have their allotments in the garden. And when you go in there, they've got a place called the Bothy, and there's an honesty box in there. There's tea, coffee, ice creams, cakes, biscuits, always available. And you can just go in, wander around. Absolutely beautiful garden. And we discovered it by accident when we were at a noon column, didn't we?
You did.
And noon columns are these things that you were talking about, Newgrange and places, Caroline.
Yeah.
The noon columns shine a light on the solstice about noon. They're all over this part of the country. And the one we went to was that one we went to for the midsummer noon column. There's a
Yes.
midwinter noon column, but I don't think many people get there because it's quite cold.
Yeah.
So the light shines through a slit in a wooden column, and it shines onto the ground and reveals its own shadow. It's like who's that guy? The artist whose name escapes me. He's
David.
David.
Oh,
That's
Nash. David
David
Nash.
Nash. He did them all. So, and we were at one. We wanted to see just once see the shadow at the noon column. We ended up at this incredible place, Alford Hall Gardens, and Cheryl's managed to get the bell ringers there this Christmas. So, like quite a nice little chain of events, chain of happy accidents, really. Yeah, Alford Hall Gardens, beautiful place. We did a little sing-song there last summer. It's a glorious place, a place where all sorts of things happen, and the locals just come in and grow the vegetables and look after the roses, and beautiful rose garden. But it's a community
the name
thing.
again, John?
Sorry?
What? Alsford Hall?
Alford Hall Gardens.
Oh.
Alford Hall Gardens. Tiny little place. But
it's near Tamworth in Staffordshire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if you like the power of the community, communal things are amazing. As I get older, I see the power of community, like this community online communities, and genuine communities like when we go to Rock Bank. There's an energy there that I just can't get on my own. And I've tried for years, but it's not available. But it's available through a community. And I find that really hopeful and fascinating.
Yes.
And actually, Cheryl, can I share something while it's just when you were saying about graveyards and walking through them? I think you all know, that I lost my son 7 years ago now, and my tradition on New Year is he's buried on top of a hill that overlooks the town, and it's just a lovely spot. And on New Year's Eve, I go and sit with him, and it is the most. I'm sure if anyone happened upon me, they think I was a complete weirdo, I'm sure, but I take my hot chocolate and sit and see the New Year in with him. So I'm there at midnight. And it is just the most magical thing to do. There's something about that. I don't know. It's just it's a community I love. Just sitting there, and it's peace when you hear the first fireworks and the party sounds. And I love being sort of separate from it, but part of it at the same time. And it's just it's such a special thing to do. And I know that sounds very odd, but and I'm not very keen on fireworks usually, but New Year's Eve they light up the hills around with bonfires, and you just see them light one at a time and as beacons. And so it's just a very, very special thing. So I've got an affinity. I could really relate with what you were saying, Cheryl.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. It's a strange thing to admit to, isn't it? That I find quite a lot of peace in those places.
Yes, yeah, it is. It's magical, and there's something magical always happens every year. Sort of star-wise or shooting stars, or it's just being still for a moment for that time is so lovely, and I don't feel at all scared, or it's just beautiful. So thank you for sharing that. It's allowed me to share my.
Oh, well, it was lovely to hear that, Jenny. Yeah.
Thank you.
It kept the theme of light and darkness. It kept bringing to mind the story of the little match girl, which really touched me when I was a child. I didn't really know why, but I just found it's sad, but quite beautiful at the same time, because the little match girl finds comfort in lighting. She's got no shoes and she's outside in the freezing cold, and clearly suffering from the cold and fading away, but she keeps lighting her match. And when she lights her match, she's suddenly transported to seeing a beautiful Christmas tree full of lights, or feeling the warmth of a fire, or being, with a group of people at Christmas time. And then her matches are all gone, and she sees a shooting star, and she says, "Oh, that's my grandmother told me that when you see a shooting star, someone has passed." And the next thing, there's her grandma waiting for her, and carries her away up to the stars in a glory of light. And I love that story. It's one of those stories that's hopeful, I think, even though it's, the next morning she's found there frozen, but she's had this beautiful experience. So yeah, I love that story.
Yeah, the stars thing. I remember. I don't remember exactly where it is, but I think Jung said that when you die, you become a star. And there are billions and billions of stars, so scientifically, it's feasible. But if you think about how a star is born, it's not that pleasant, really, is it? It's hundreds of millions of degrees and all sorts of pressures and explosions, and then this beautiful thing comes out. So I like that idea. I think it's a Jungian one. One of the many things that Jung said. But the one I liked the most recently, I read, Jung said, "Thank God I'm young and not a Jungian." I thought that was really profound.
Yeah.
So we've been talking a lot about light and darkness and angels, and it really feels, and I associate with John, what you said about community and meaningful community, such as this group. And I feel that our angels have been around. So I went and opened the box. I haven't decorated yet because I've just been back from Scotland a couple of days ago. And I want to share my angels that I made last year. Yeah, my share from really sad stories of my clients, really. And then I shredded the paper and I thought, oh, that's a lot of paper to be thrown away. And the power of turning something, I just let it sit there for months and months until I had too much. And then I thought something needs to be transformed out of all these stories, and just to honor these people and I guess the difficulty and the suffering and the sadness, what can I do with it? So I decided to just create angels for my tree.
What a great idea.
Yeah.
I mean, they didn't turn out at all as I imagined, because I never made papier-mâché before. But then they've got all these happy smiles and different personalities, and a bit about them, which just makes me think that, yeah, maybe angels, it's not all, there's that lightness in light too, and that joy. And when stories are shared and told, how this alchemical process happens, and the inner light, just like that little candle, or it's as long as we're breathing, it's always there. And even when we're not breathing, if we do become stars, it's still shining somehow, or whatever happens, that is essentially what we take with us. That's how I sort of perceive. Well, might have a chat on the other side someday, but for now, this is my vision, that once the earthly is gone back to the earth, that light carries on to grow and serve. And yeah. So thank you. It's just been
fantastic that you transformed those
Yeah.
things. I think that's fantastic. Love that.
Yeah.
I feel today, because I've been really tired with this move, and I had a terrible cold, and And then I just thought, oh, do I have the energy for this? Although it was solstice, and my heart, that little spark inside me wanted, and I'm glad I lit up the candle and came, because it's been very nurturing, and yeah, beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you for coming, Maria, as always. Thank you for coming. I'm thinking, because it's 5:45 now, and I'm thinking it might be nice to move to our closing. And so, with that in mind, 2 weeks ago, dear Ariane, did the most wonderful presentation for us, actually at Rock Bank.
Absolutely.
Yes, and she closed the meeting so beautifully. So I asked her in the week if she would close our circle and close our meeting, and she agreed. So, shall I pass over to you, Ariane, for you to close our meeting?
Thank you, Caroline. I'm honoured. So I'd like to offer a short prayer for us all. May the darkness of these winter nights comfort, restore, and renew you. And may this candle remind you of your own guiding light. May this candle offer you the promise of light's return. Could you join me in sending out the light into the world as I blow out the candle?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been such a delightful, gentle gathering, hasn't it? I'm sure you all agree. And we wish you all the season's blessings, and we hope very much to see you for Orestes and lifting the family curse. I think it's on the 12th of January. So lots of love to you all, and very, very Merry Christmas and Happy Solstice.
Thank you so much.
Same
It's
to
been
you.
beautiful.
Big love
Thank
to
you.
everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Solstice.
Thank you, Caroline.
Yeah.
Everyone, it's so lovely to see you.
Mm.